Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I am your host, Asher, and our guest today is Anumeha. Beautiful name, by the way. And we get to talk about our theme today, which is around failure, Tuesday's theme. And Anumeha, we're gonna get right into it because I'm excited to talk to you about your journey with fear. So if you don't mind telling us where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, all you adding value to the world, and who you being a hero to.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Asher. So, hi everyone. I'm tuning in from California. I'm in the Santa Clara.
Mm,
And whom do I help?
mm-hmm,
I work with mothers who are struggling with anger so
mm,
that they can resolve the root of the anger
mm-hmm,
and release that energy so they can bring their unique gifts to the world. So that's what I do. And it's my own journey with anger. And it led me to study Ayurveda. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm also a theta healing practitioner, and I do tarot reading. So I use all the modalities that help me in my own journey to provide some answers to mothers
mm,
and to help them create the kind of environment they want to create at home where their children can thrive.
mm.
So that's what I do. And then what was the next question, Asher?
Well, you kind of answered all of them pretty much. Those questions are very similar, but I would like to ask you
Okay.
straight out, like, who you being a hero to, though?
Who I've been a hero to?
Mm,
I think to myself.
mm,
For a long time, I just wanted to be a better person. That was my goal. If
mm,
I can be the next best version of myself, I'll be happy. And I have worked so hard on it and I have seen results. So
mm.
I think I'm my biggest hero. I'm very proud of myself.
Thank you so much, Anumeha. We're gonna really get to know each other today. And I like when you say you're being a hero to yourself and anger. And I love the word anger. And here's why I love the word anger. Because when in the state of victimhood, the next level up is anger.
Mm,
So if you're not angry, you will not do anything. You would just sit there and take it. But when you
mm,
decide, I'm angry now. Like, something I look in my own country, America here. I think even our youths, I don't think our youths are angry enough. Right? I don't
mm,
think they have the kind of anger they need to make changes in certain things. And when I see it, I was like, they're not even angry enough to join the military and serve.
mm,
Right? They don't have that kind of fuel, that kind of fire in their system to do anything about stuff that they don't see is right. They don't have anger to look at stuff in society that are not right and do something about it. Because the victim energy is like it's just so big, a big part of your life. They won't do anything about it. So when
mm.
somebody says they are angry, I'm like, okay, now what you gonna do with that anger? You're gonna do something with that's the energy of motion right there. You're gonna do
Yeah.
something. You just gotta channel it into the right place. And it's all like you'll find a place to put your anger. So where did you put your anger first when you was like, I'm angry? I'm gonna do something about this. Where do you go? What direction do you go into?
Do you understand now, after all my work, I read the message behind the anger.
Mm,
Like you said, it could just be that I feel victimized.
mm,
It could be I'm hiding humiliation, or I'm hurt, or I have fear.
mm,
So these are all the emotions which are actually under that anger. And sometimes we get angry because we just don't get what we want. As
mm,
simple as that. So if I'm angry, I actually now look in and see why I got angry, what is the underlying emotion,
mm,
and what can I do to work with that root cause. Because although anger is a very powerful energy, it
mm,
is still it is still second to love.
mm. So if I had to ask you, What were you so angry about? What would that be?
I was angry about patriarchy.
Mm.
And that was not my anger. It came to me from the women before me.
Mm.
That is called ancestral trauma.
So many of them was angry.
Yep. And when you come from a country like India, it is a double whammy because one, um, you're angry with patriarchy, and my ancestors are from northern India. They didn't have any say. They were subjugated, and let me say that they were not treated well at all.
Mm.
They didn't have a voice. Okay. And the second thing is all the invasions also happened from northern India. So
Mm.
now the woman is not only second to the men, your country is also being ruled by someone else. So you've become a second citizen in your own country. So there are two things happening here. And when we study in India, I studied in India, all our history books talk about how India was such a beautiful country, was so rich, prosperous, abundant, and how the invasions slowly kind of corrupted the country and looted the country, and now where it has reached. And as a child, when you read your history books, you just start feeling your blood boil.
Mhm.
And right there, you are told that you are a victim. And that really is very hard to change. As long as we keep believing we are victims, we'll keep getting angry, we'll keep boiling our blood, and we'll keep making rash decisions.
Mm. That is quite powerful there. Anumeha. So So let me ask you a question. So we know that it's the ancestral anger that was just carrying over from generation to generation. And then it got to you and you felt the same anger because there's still some sense making need to happen in your system. Like you was a physical manifestation of making sense of that anger. And then you decided you're gonna do something about it. So what was your next step? You went from victimhood to anger. Then what was the next phase for you?
So I started with anger because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why am I getting angry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I traced the root to ancestral trauma,
Mm-hmm.
victimhood. Uh, I also traced the root to trauma from my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
which was not major trauma, but as a child, you can have trauma for even small, innocent
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that. And also, my anger was because I was a person who wanted to please everyone. I never spoke up for what I wanted. I didn't even know what I wanted. So there were a lot of, so it started with the anger. Like I told you, it's like a messenger. And I traced it back to all these things happening with me. And once I started resolving the root of my anger, I found that my voice changed.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm grabbing
Okay,
something here.
sure, no problem. So my voice changed because I was no longer angry with myself to start with. So many times our anger is actually towards ourselves. And there came I don't know, it seems like there's some kind of a sweetness in the voice, which people seem to like. There is some kind of an acceptance because I accept myself and I also accept everyone without judgment. So all these things started showing in my voice, because of which I noticed that people started being kind to me.
Mm-hmm.
that gave me less and less reason to be angry.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Mm.
Much more powerful than anger.
That is the next phase, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is. I was trying to, matter of fact, I was opening this book, I was trying to find it. There was this concept called the seven levels of energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it breaks down like the levels of energy. So like first level is victimhood, then it's anger,
Oh,
that energy. Then it goes into the compassion piece and responsibility.
oh.
And then yeah, I gotta find the exact phrase for it. I was trying to look it up right now, but I couldn't find it. But it's interesting concept when you think about like how we process energy and how we kind of navigate it. And if you understand how the phases connect to themselves, then it's like, okay, now what next after this? How do I
Mm,
elevate up? Or do I level up to the next level?
mm,
And definitely from that anger is it's all about the compassion piece. And then it's the responsibility, that ownership piece. And then when you start taking responsibility, you start making sense of life a little bit more. So but it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm listening to you and I was like, yeah, this is definitely this sounds like the levels a little bit. Yeah. But you found a way to find compassion from studying your history, like
mm,
erasing the mystery on your history, figuring out exactly why your ancestors was traumatized, and you recognize what it was traumatized. You decide you're gonna break the cycle from it, and
mm.
know that you've realized, oh, this is where I want to take my life, and I want to take ownership of this thing and go here, and you end up in that compassion piece, which I'm looking at your painting behind you, and that is a
Mm.
painting of compassion, by the way. We was talking about
Oh,
earlier.
thank
So
you.
you was painting you, the inward piece of you was trying to paint there. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm feeling. What are your
Mm.
thoughts?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Very much possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And actually, it's surprising that the day I started painting, I was actually angry
Mm-hmm.
internally. So it doesn't mean I don't get angry ever. That's not true at all. I still get angry. I still get angry, but not that often, not that intense. Earlier, I had to throw something to calm down. So I have not reached that level. It's much calmer and the anger is more subdued now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was angry when I started painting this. And that day, the message that came to me, because I'm also a tarot reader, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
meditation I was doing. And in the meditation, the message that came to me was there is more power in gentleness than anger. So it's beautiful that you see gentleness and compassion in this painting, although it started with me being very angry.
Mm. But in the core of you was something else that wanted to come out.
Yeah.
And and the anger is justified because if compassion want to take root and anger is the only way to wake up the energy field, and anger is going to show up first, because I think just like we recognize that sometimes pain is the most obvious form of consciousness, because if you
Mhm.
didn't feel the pain you wouldn't recognize that you're alive. You
So
so
true. Yeah, I like that. Hmm.
so same thing, anger is also another awakening piece to like, hey, I'm
Hmm.
here, I exist, right? You can't just walk over me,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Hmm.
no. And then from there you recognize that with that anger, then also the compassion piece makes sense, because now you gotta be compassionate to you, because if you stay angry for a long time, you will catch on fire. You will literally burn alive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now you have to have compassion for that person that wants to reveal itself.
Absolutely. Very well put. And can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
When we let people walk over us, somewhere we have a belief that we are victims and it plays out.
Mm.
So it's always a good wake up sign if we're allowing that. That do I believe in my subconscious I'm a victim? Why am I even allowing this to happen?
Mm.
It's never really the other person walking over us. It's more of us allowing
Yes.
that person.
the allowing. It's
Yes.
like, it's the idea that I don't even have my own security set up. I don't have a security guard.
Mm.
And oftentimes what I recognize is that oftentimes that security guard is the masculine energy
Mm.
because it is the container, it is the frame, it is what holds the boundary.
Mm.
And if we don't able to at least understand how to bring that into play, then we get walked over. Our boundary gets run over, like the security gets run over, right? The defenses gets run over because there's nothing protecting you from the elements outside. So oftentimes people that are get walking over doesn't project the masculine energy enough to prevent that overrunning.
Mm.
Like there's no borders,
Mm.
there's no barriers. And
Yeah.
oftentimes that's what's missing.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, Asher, but sometimes I have experienced something else.
Mm,
Sometimes I feel like we also use a lot of energy to put up barriers and put up borders.
mm-hmm,
That also needs energy to tell people, no, 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 no.
mm-hmm,
I won't do this. No, I won't do that. No, I won't come with you. That also needs energy.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes I find there are people who are like water.
mm,
They just flow and they just go with the flow and they are saying yes to you and the yes to something else. And because they're riding the wave, everything happens effortlessly.
mm,
And I wonder, where should I be? Where should I stand? So this is my continuous exploration for myself. What really takes more energy, being water or setting up boundaries?
mm. That's a very good question, by the way.
Yeah,
Now,
maybe to the listeners, huh? Maybe
yeah,
they
yeah.
can put in the chat.
Well, yeah, we would love to hear from you, like what you think about the hazard to be water or put up boundary. What I love about water always follow the the path of least resistance.
Mm.
It's always like a downflow thing, follow the path of least resistance. And sometimes it depends, like you come back to the yes and the no. I think the yes is the welcoming energy, and the no is the boundary energy. Like I'm gonna say no, because I don't want that to enter here. And
Mm.
sometimes you gotta say no because you're preventing something that is not welcome because maybe the inside of the house is not ready for that for them to enter. Like I'm not ready
Mm.
for that yet. So I have to say no. Oh, yes, I'm ready
Mm.
for that because I've been waiting for that thing to show
Mm.
up. I've been waiting for you to show up because we have something to talk about. Oh, I'm not ready for you to show up yet. So I'm gonna tell you no because I need to prepare something else for. Sometimes I gotta see the energy. But some people that are just flowing with life, those people are very confident in their energy space.
Mm.
The which is the next topic around fear that doesn't exist that much because they can just flow with life. But today's theme is around failure. So if I had to ask you,
Mm.
what have you failed so much at that now you find a way to succeed at it and you want to share with us what that failure has taught you the most about yourself?
My biggest failure has been motherhood.
Mm,
Yeah, I felt like such a loser for such a long time because I have all these uh, rules about being a good mother. If
mhm,
I'm a good mother, my children will eat nutritious food. If I'm a good mother, my children will watch less screen. My children will look a certain way. They will behave a certain way. All this societal conditioning on my job as a mother and what is the evidence that I'm doing a good job.
mm,
And that's the problem, when you grow up in a country where you get grades and you are always rewarded for performing well, and that might be many countries. I won't say it's just my country, but somewhere what I'm trying to say is every work you do, you see results and you can
mhm,
feel good about yourself. When I became a mother, everything changed. No, there was no consistency. If 1 hour the child is good, the next hour he can be sick. If today was a great day, tomorrow can be the worst day ever.
mm,
There was no predictability. There was no proof that I was doing a good job. There was no recognition from anyone. And it's so vague to understand how to really excel at it. So, first, to drop that whole expectation that you want to excel at it. So, you have to drop that. You have
Mm.
to redefine your own role as a mother. You have to drop all the shoulds of motherhood. I was so paranoid that my children should not watch too much TV. I'm sure that my son will go to therapy when he's older and just talk about how I was crazy, crazy like a dictator and monitoring his screen time all the time. But I had this thing, a fear. I had a big fear that if he watches too much TV, he's going to spoil his eyes and he will end up having anxiety, all these things I thought. And now I feel like just holding space for my children to bloom into the people they were meant to be,
Mm.
to have the journeys they were meant to have, and to have unconditional love for them. That's just my job. That's it.
I have to say, you know, I wonder if there's a user's manual for mothers, specifically for the child they bring into this world. Because it's a difficult thing to think about.
Mm,
Like a new kid, there's no manual for that person when they show up. Because every kid is different. Everybody is different.
mm.
The manual for me
Exactly.
is not gonna be the same manual for you. And then as a mother, you're trying to figure out what is that kid's user's manual and where is it and how can I raise this person according to their user's manual? Like we don't know. So, but it's interesting when you say you felt like you was losing, failing at being a mother, but then you figure out actually every mother's fail.
Mm.
Every mother fail. Like it's a
They-
it's a job of failing.
mm,
It is like I can never find a mother or a father that is being a successful creator of a kid. Like because none. So it's a failing job, I think, but it's also a successful job because we don't know what this person's supposed to be. But the question is, did you protect them from dying? I mean, that's one of my big of my big standard. Did this person actually lived? Did they survive? They did.
they
Because I was
survive.
thinking about, in matter of fact, it's interesting. Every Tuesday I talk to my therapist. The conversation we talk to always lead back into my podcast for the next. So right now we was talking about like the idea of the entitlement piece that we grew up with the entitlement piece of thinking that we're entitled to something. Like the world wasn't designed for me. It wasn't designed for you because it was designed before I got here, before you got here. So it wasn't created with you in mind or me in mind.
Mm,
So when we get here, we had to transform into living into the environment that we show up into. So now, if I say I'm entitled to all of these things, well, no, I wasn't. Because what if I just show up on planet Earth as a baby and I was left alone and I had to
mm,
grow up on my own, nobody there? Then I wouldn't think about being entitled. I would have to go out and create, but that didn't happen, right? Somebody stuck around because nobody's obligated to raise you,
mm,
but somebody commit to raising you. So I was working out these conversations like, okay, there's no obligation at all. Like nobody owes you anything. I'm not obligated to keep you around until you're 18 or 19 or 20 years old. But I commit to it because I understand what it requires. But once that person commit to you, whatever happens after I get to my 18 or my 19 or my 28th birthday, okay, no, I gotta do life. I get
mm,
to transform now myself out of whatever I was raised into. I gotta transform that into something different. I gotta convert that into something different. And oftentimes, we think we're entitled. Like, my entitled to my parents should have done this for me. They didn't have to do anything, but they committed and do something. And whatever
mm,
they did to got me here, I am grown up now. I can change that.
mm.
There's a saying that whoever showed up to your 40th birthday is your fault.
Whoever?
Whoever showed up to your 40th birthday is your fault.
Is your fault.
Your fault. Yeah, right. The idea that you can blame your parents, you can blame the government, you can blame your family, you can blame everybody, you know, up to your 30th birthday. Like you can blame everybody. Oh, the school
Oh,
did this to
okay.
me, the family did this to me, all this other stuff.
Ah,
But after that, you're working on that next decade after 30, and you get to 40 and you're still blaming, then that's your fault.
then
You had
it's
an
your
opportunity to
fault.
change that. So if
Mm,
you're a person that grew up, like if you get to 20, 30, you're still blaming family, anybody for wherever you are. You can change that now. Like you're smart enough,
mm,
old enough to change everything that was ingrained into you, indoctrinated into you. You can change all of it and become the person you want to be.
mm.
So that's what I was thinking when you was talking. What are your thoughts?
Very well said. I
Mm,
like that. And it again ties into the same thing, no, Asher, that we find comfort in believing we are victims.
mm-hmm,
We don't want to actually come out of that victimhood and find our own power because now we'll have to do something about it. And that can be scary. Let us
mm,
just stay small. Let us stay victim, angry, and small.
mm. And
So
some people would
comfortable.
want that.
Some people like, and many people actually like that. It's a
Yeah,
comfort place, comfort
yeah.
zone. So I like that you said that if by 40 you're still blaming other people, then that's on you. I like
Yeah,
that.
it is.
I like that.
Totally, totally. Yeah. Hmm. So here is we are here, and you have mothers to tackle the thing that you struggle with so much, but then you figure out a way to make sense of it,
Mm,
and you want to help them make sense of it, which is just very noble, very
thank
noble.
you.
Because a lot of mothers struggle, like especially if they're by themselves. Ooh, we
Mm. They struggle with anger, they struggle with guilt. Oh my gosh, mother's guilt. Nothing
tell me
feels
about that.
heavier. Nothing feels heavier than mother's guilt.
Mm,
Literally. You wake up, you feel that load on your head, on your shoulders. You walk the whole day feeling that heaviness, and you go to bed also with that. And nothing in the day really helps you relieve it. Maybe a few wins here and there, small, tiny wins here and there, but the mind will come back to what you did not do. It will focus on how you did not do enough.
mm. Mother's guilt. That's a new term. Mother's guilt.
Really? Oh my gosh. In our mother's world, it is very, very common, huge. And then you lose it. If you get angry, you lose it and you feel even more guilty. Now you're stuck in a cycle of guilt and anger and guilt and anger, and you just go through this cycle.
Mm. So now that you're in a place of compassion, how do you
Mhm.
process or help people process that energy that would make them feel a sense of relief as a mother from all that guilt and anger?
So how do I help them
Hmm.
process it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
so
your system? What is your system?
my system is basically I ask them first of all, are they ready to release the anger?
Mm,
Because we hold the anger in ourselves. And so many times when people release anger, they actually lose weight.
mm,
And we are also transferring that anger in our DNA, right? So this work that I do is very deep work because we
mm,
need to release from the cells. I
mm,
use theta healing. I use theta healing for that. So I always start with asking the person, are you ready to release anger? It could be yes, it could be no. And then if they're not ready, we have to first prime them so they are mentally ready to release the anger using theta healing. Then we go to, okay, what are you angry about?
mhm,
When did it start? Because you might be angry yesterday, but it might have started sometime in your childhood and you're still carrying that. Or it could be ancestral. So we find out when did it start. And a lot of my work, I keep testing in the body. So we do muscle testing all the time. So the
mm,
body keeps confirming to us that we are in the right direction. And then I asked them, okay, why are you holding on to this anger? How is it serving you? Everything we hold on to, whether it's anger, guilt, resentment, rejection, it is actually serving a purpose for us. We're getting something out of it.
Mm.
If we don't understand what we are getting out of it, we'll not be ready to release it. Even someone, for example, who's perpetually in victim mode is getting something out of that. So my main work is to understand what are you getting. That is why I keep digging. Once we find that, then we do theta healing to say, okay, you know what? This is the trauma and this is the benefit you're getting. Let's
Mhm.
keep the benefit and let's remove the trauma. And then we test again. What happened? Oh, I actually raised my hand because I raised my hand.
Mhm.
So that's it. So after we release the trauma, we again test in the body whether it's been released or not. And then the session is completed.
Mm. That is powerful work.
I
To go
love my work. I
to
love my work. I love my work. It's almost like a detective looking
Mm.
for patterns, looking for what's going on here, what's going on there.
Mm. I would tie it back to something that I do too on my side, and I recognize the power of me. I focus to writing, like really like writing, like really going
Mm,
back, studying your history and write it out. Because I come from it from a, like a mental space.
mhm.
And I recognize when people really study their history, oh my God. You know, one of my favorite like saying is like those who study history are masters of the future, and those who
Oh,
study their own history are masters of their own future. And there's a lot of
beautiful.
yeah. And
Mm,
there's a lot of power when you go back in your history and then you become confident about it. Because if you have a confident past, you have a confident future. And it's one of the big reasons why a lot of people are not confident in your future, because if you think about what you think about your past, if it's a place where you don't appreciate, you don't want a future, because your future goes in the same place your past exists.
mm,
So if I give you more future, you're gonna put it and store it in the same place that you don't appreciate. So then everything you get is gonna go to a place of depreciation. Like the value goes down. You reduce the value of it. And whenever time people don't really go back and look at their history and like, wait a minute, my history is powerful. There's a lot
mm,
back here. I respect and appreciate my history. Now, with that energy, you can do something with your future, a lot more powerful. So I help people like to write, just like start writing out your story, write it out, because our experience. I think our experience is our intellectual property,
mm,
right? You own that. Like
mm,
you just don't let anybody just tell your story for you. You gotta tell the person that tell your story. So you gotta go back in your history and recognize what's in there. And once you recognize what's in there, now you can construct a future that you want now. Because
mm,
if you don't want your past, you would not want your future either. Because your future is your past, and your past is your future, so to speak.
mm, mm.
Once people start recognize that, then a lot of empowerment comes that shows up for them. So it's interesting that you say you go investigate and like play with the body energy. That's very beautiful.
Thank you. Something else also came up for me when you were talking.
Mm.
When you said, look at your past, I remembered that we keep talking about ancestral trauma, but there are so many ancestral gifts also that we get.
Hmm.
I have so many gifts from these women. I know so much about food and herbs and prayers and so many things I didn't learn actively. I've just gotten it, you know, it's come in my blood. And
Yes.
and that it's so cool to go back and see, oh, my ancestors were such cool people.
Hmm.
And I've chosen to join this line of family because we chose our parents.
Hmm.
So I chose this. Somewhere there was an energy match. And my grandfather actually was a very big historian in India. He has more than 100 books about the history of India.
Mm,
So when you kept talking about history, I was thinking about, yeah, my family also somewhere believes a lot in our history.
mm. You know what's even beautiful, by the way, when you was talking, I just thought about it. Like we are the ancestors too.
Absolutely.
Yes, we are the ancestors too. Like eventually, you gonna be an ancestor that I gotta tell the young folks, like, hey, you remember this? But we are the ancestors too. But if we think
Mm.
about that as being the ancestors already, and then we start thinking about the legacy, we start thinking about what we document, what we record, what we leave
Yeah.
behind, all that stuff. We start thinking about that stuff now because it's not like you're gonna be stuck being 40 or 20 or 30. You're gonna get
Mm.
old, you're gonna pass away, you're gonna become the ancestor. So you're already ancestors because they are in you already.
Mm.
Because when you think about life, it's like when your parents give birth, they give birth to themselves. When you give birth, you
Mm.
gave birth to yourself.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
are the ancestors, all
Mm.
of us.
I love that because then you start thinking about your legacy.
Hmm.
And that brings me to the point where when we are not mature in our emotions and how we handle them, is that the legacy we want to leave for our children? Where they're just shooting off their lips, they don't know what to say, they don't know how to be kind, and they don't know how to understand their emotions. Is that what we want to leave?
Interesting.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Anumeha,
Mm.
if somebody listened to you right now, felt you deeply, and says, Anumeha, you are my hero, and I would love to work with you, I would love to connect with you, how can they do that?
Okay, sure. Mm. If anyone feels there's a connect and you want to explore working with me and taking my support in your journey,
Mm,
then I have a website, um, ayuwise.com. I'm sure it will be in the show notes, but it's ayuwise, AYUWISE.com. And you can go there and book a 15-minute clarity call with me. That's how I start.
mm,
In the call, I understand what are your goals, what are your challenges, and just present some kind of a roadmap for you that I can see in my
mm,
experience. And then we see if we are a good fit to work together. So that's one option. And the other option is always to sign up for my newsletter and be part of my newsletter family.
mhm.
Yeah.
Are you big on social media too?
Uh, I'm okay. I'm on Instagram.
Instagram, okay.
Yeah, I do post off and on. So I am on Instagram.
You know,
It's
you know what
hmm.
people like to see stuff, so they're gonna go to they want to see. They're gonna look you up. So Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's Ayurveda Oasis for moms. I
Mm.
think so. I have to confirm. But yeah, I think that's the
Ayurveda
one.
Oasis for moms. Mm,
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Mm.
No, my other question for you is, if you had to wrap up and tell me what is your biggest takeaway or giveaway from this conversation, what would it be?
I love that part that we are the ancestors as well.
Mm,
That resonated with me. That makes me think about what's the legacy I want to leave.
mm,
Mm.
perfect. And last question.
Mm.
What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
Crazy in a good way or a bad way?
Like, give me one of both.
Okay. Very few people are able to make me mad now.
Mm,
Very few. I just feel like they have their reasons and it is a different point in their journey. Doesn't mean I have to tolerate them.
Mm-hmm.
I will excuse myself, but I will not let that affect me. Yeah, I think the only person who can press my buttons now is just sometimes my daughter. And that's when I sense that I still have an attachment to her and I need to practice more detachment. But so that I would say it's her. And in a good way, what makes me crazy in a good way? I think I really appreciate kindness in people.
Mm.
Yeah, I like kindness in people. And when people are kind, you can see it in their eyes.
Mm.
And I just, so in a way, you can say I like seeing kind eyes. And so many people have kind eyes.
Mm. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Kind eyes.
yeah.
Mm. If you got shades on, I'm sorry, she won't be able to see them kind eyes. You gotta take your glasses off. Anumeha,
Hmm,
it was a pleasure talking to you today.
same here.
Yes, you are very wise.
Likewise, Asher, I feel the same for you.
Mm. Thank you so much. Well, folks, you tuned into Pandora's Awareness podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. And today's theme was around failure. And we get to explore what Anamaya felt like a failure was for her. Being a mom that that she thought was very challenging. But also we get to learn about how she really add value to the world, who she being a hero to, and what she specializes in as far as taking care of mothers that really want to change your life when it comes to being a mom with more responsibility. And with that,
Hmm,
folks, any last word before we go, Anamaya?
hmm. Just want you to, I just want to say that the power is in you.
Mm,
And just decide that you want to show up fully in the world, and you will find all the resources you need to make that happen.
mm.